Agriculture, Kendall, the taste of quality, Blow, NCB, Arc Manufacturing, Water, JN Group, Alaska Foundation, Pan Jamaica Group, Miss Birdie, H&L Homes, and VM Group. Watch, listen, decide, vote.
Welcome back to the Economy Debate presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. We invite you, the public, to send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Send them to Jamaica Debates. Well, we now ask Andrea Chisholm to start this segment with a question for Team JLP.
The public sector wage bill consumes close to 50% of tax revenues. The Independent Fiscal Commission has recommended the reintroduction of a cap on public sector wages as a percentage of GDP. But in March, the Standing Finance Committee of Parliament was told the cap was not being considered. Why was the recommendation ignored?
For the public sector wages, I know when you look back in history, there used to be, it calculated as a percentage of GDP. With our current fiscal rules and our debt to GDP rule, those are the two kind of guardrails that we use on the budget to keep everything in line. If we do that, if we keep that focus on our debt to GDP and on our fiscal balance, then everything in the budget will align, and it would not be necessary, it has not been necessary to, keep a cap on the wage bill that way as a percentage of GDP. And as a matter of fact, one time in our history, it was done. When you look back, maybe it was only one time that ratio was ever reached. So there's good faith and confidence in the fiscal balance rules and the debt to GDP in order to help us to keep everything in line in the budget.
Can I also quickly say that this government has done the boldest move to reform and restructure the public sector. First of all, we had 300 different salaries packages, 180 different allowances were consolidated into 16, and it has taken time. We need that time to sort that out.
Jamaica's tax burden at 29% of GDP is the highest in the region. Our middle class has been hollowed out by a generation of belt tightening. It is time that our nurses, our teachers, our police officers, our public servants get to enjoy some of the benefits of years of tight fiscal management. It can't always be that when it comes time for the people to benefit, we are talking about managing fiscal rules, etc. We will observe the fiscal rules, but we believe we must do a social transformation for the people.
Time. Thank you very much. Question for Team PNP. Al?
The high interest rate FinSec era was devastating for the Jamaican economy. A World Bank debt management paper dated 21/12/2001 reads in part, the ensuing rapid growth of FinSec debt worsened as interest rates continued to rise, leading to a stock debt of $142 billion as of March 2001. That's about 43% of GDP. This added to an already large pre-crisis public debt burden of more than 100% of GDP, leading to an unsustainable debt path. That period also decimated a generation of local entrepreneurs, so much so that a generation later many are still reticent to invest in the productive sector. What guarantee can you give under your administration that Jamaica will never see history repeating itself, and how do you intend to honor that guarantee?
Well, what we have to ensure is that the agencies that have responsibility for managing and regulating the financial services sector are actually manned by individuals who are competent and professional. The Bank of Jamaica, the Financial Services Commission. Ensuring the BOJ now is an independent agency that has the responsibility for managing interest rates and primarily inflation. At the time when FinSAC took place, the government intervened to ensure that all depositors got back their money. What we want to see is the FinSAC report published. The country spent $150 million on a FinSAC commission, and all now we can't get the report. We want the FinSAC report out. And while you're at it, we will publish the SSL report, because we noticed that depositors have gotten $2. If them did have $100 and there's only $2 them get back. But the most honorable Prime Minister got all his money out of SSL before it collapsed. That is what justice means. We will publish the SSL report, and it is a failure on their part that after all these years, given the impact of FinSAC, that there is no report, no independent report. What we have seen is drips and drabs being leaked out by that side. So when we talk about FinSAC, let's get all the facts on the table and release the Kroll report from SSL.
Time up.
Interesting that that side can speak as if they're ignorant of FinSAC, when some on that very side were involved during the FinSAC period and benefited. Just recall the 40-40-40. You mentioned it. 40% of GDP to recover from FinSAC. 40,000 businesses lost their money. 40% being offered by merchant banks to make a profit. And DB&G made on average 40% return on their investments, which one of the principals sits across me right here. They cannot talk about fiscal discipline. They cannot talk about management and economy. They presided over the FinSAC era. They drove people in some instances to commit suicide based on news reports. They have no moral authority and certainly no economic management, and they are still there. The Jamaican people cannot trust them.
Thank you, time. Al, you wanted to use one of your two follow-up questions?
The first one, yes.
Proceed.
The JLP government has presided over macroeconomic stability. Public debt has come from over 140% of GDP in 2013 to 70% in fiscal year 24-25. Unemployment now stands at just 3.3%. According to Statin, as of July this year, Jamaica's annual headline inflation rate stood at 3.3%. The Bank of Jamaica says as of August 12, 2025, Jamaica's gross international reserves stood at US $6.2 billion. The World Bank, the IMF, the rating agencies all commend Jamaica for this economic performance. How will a PNP government build upon and improve this trajectory?
I think it's important to set context for the question that you have asked. When they left office in 2011, the country was on the precipice of economic collapse. When we got in 2012, we had to restore Jamaica's credibility. We had to establish EPOC. We strengthened and enhanced the fiscal rules. We legislated the debt to GDP ratio so that any government, PMP or JLP, had to pay down that debt. Portia Simpson Miller and Peter Phillips started that race. We passed the baton. We are the persons responsible for the fiscal responsibility that exists today, and we will continue that when we get into office again.
Time, thank you. The Team JLP, you have 45 seconds to rebut.
I am so glad that you named all of those improvements that we've had in our economy. When the PNP was in government, they took a wrecking ball to our economy, and that's a fact. When we took office 9 years ago, we saw high unemployment, we saw high debt, we saw high crime too, and we saw failing infrastructure. And this administration got to work, working on all of those areas. The PNP does not know how to be fiscally responsible. And we have seen that in our history time and time again. And so the data is there. The data shows the Jamaica Labour Party knows how to do it.
Time. Let's take a question from social media. Amoy?
Well, George, this question comes from Facebook. Nikisha is asking, many schools are without basic resources, and as such, some schools are asking parents to contribute certain resources, whether it be in cash or kind. Seeing that economically parents are struggling to pay school fees and meet other needs, how will your administration, if elected, resolve this issue so there will be an ease on parents' pockets?
Team JLP?
Thank you for that question, and we definitely understand the burden that a lot of our parents feel. And it is for that reason that we have focused quite a bit on how we can get our children to school. Let me give you some realities from going around to our schools, especially in rural areas. When I go to school on a Friday, classes are sometimes half empty. And when you ask our teachers why, they say money ran out. What keeps them at home? High transportation costs and also the high cost of lunch. And that's what we have decided to focus on. The rural school bus system is precisely because of that. I had one mother in St. Thomas say to me, it costs her $1,200 a day to send one of her children to school, and that it is so expensive that she ends up having to choose which one goes to school sometimes. We cannot have a country like that. In addition to that, in terms of our meals, we have expanded meals to 5 days a week for those on path who need it the most. In addition to that, we're now going to be adding breakfast to our students in our schools that are the most underperforming. All of that on the backs of the hard work of Minister Williams and the Ministry of Finance team. We understand the costs and we're working hard, including in providing more books in the public sector so that our parents can have less of a burden.
Time, Team PNP, your 90 seconds.
Chris, you're correct that DBNG was a very successful company. And it was a publicly listed company that our audited financial statements were open to the public. So everyone knows where Peter Bunting and Mark Golding got their wealth from. You and your Prime Minister cannot say the same. Now, in terms of our arrangements for public transportation, particularly rural school transportation, that school bus system was a political gimmick. We cannot be buying new trucks to transport garbage, and we're buying 15-year-old buses to transport our most precious cargo, our children. That was just an opportunity for somebody to eat our food. Let us be clear about that. It was totally unsuitable. In deep rural communities, we cannot afford parallel transportation systems, a school bus and a system for adults. So what we have proposed is a subsidy of $10,000 per month per child for those parents who need it, for those children who are unable to attend school 5 days a week. What we have proposed is a hot meal every day for those children who need it. That is real progress.
I'm surprised too, Peter, that the Minister of Education is speaking as if she didn't know all of this.
Time. Andrea, your question for Team JLP.
The requirement for a 12-year experience in law enforcement was removed from the January 2025 job advertisement for the position of Chief Technical Director of the Financial Investigations Division. Why was the law enforcement requirement removed?
I want to make it clear that on the job description for the head of the FID, there are a number of different qualifications that an applicant could have. There were at least 6 different skill sets that applicant could have. When the whole process of going through recruiting was done outside of the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, and they went through a very public recruitment process. The job was advertised, interviewed. No one qualified to be accepted. Normally, in the course of advertising for jobs, if you go out once, if you go out twice, and you see that you're not getting the skill set, the particular skill set, and the job description allows you to be flexible, then obviously, as a responsible HR person looking to fill the position, then you would do that. That is what was done. There's nothing underhanded about it. It was all transparent. And we have a very competent person heading the FID currently, and I look forward to continue working with him.
Team PNP, your rebuttal.
This is not true. I know as a certain fact that senior police officers with investigative experience for many years, who have coordinated international investigations, who have headed the Intelligence Bureau. They applied for the job and they were turned down. The truth of the matter is it was a set hand. Dennis Chung applied for the job when he said he saw nothing wrong with in the Integrity Commission report. There were clear red flags for money laundering, cash from undisclosed depositors deposited to the Prime Minister's personal account, 470 billion flowing through multiple accounts. That's called layering. These were clear red flags.
Thank you very much. Time. Al, your question for Team PNP.
A look at MSMEs. Many people looking to fund a business in Jamaica bemoan the strangulating red tape and lack of access to finance from lending institutions. In the new century, we're seeing the rise of new types of businesses, young people into digital technology, the creative and services sector. Harold Davis of Jamaica Business Development Corporation makes the point that access to finance has two sides of the coin, and that it's appropriateness of the financial product that is available. And when I say appropriateness, I speak of the product that is right for the particular industry or the particular stage of business of the entrepreneur. What will you do to address this and better help small businesses in Jamaica?
We wholeheartedly agree. As a matter of fact, as a former CEO of a financial institution in Jamaica, I can say it's a problem that we struggled with in the absence of government having adequate policy and facilities to make it happen. We will, as the next PNP administration, ensure that we revisit the loan processes for our MSMEs. We recognize that they're an important part of the engine of growth for the economy, and we recognize their struggles. We note that we would have to help them with some amount of business planning. We'd have to help them to get themselves ready to borrow. But it is a win-win situation. When they borrow, they're able to grow. When they grow, they're able to contribute to the economy, and we will be able to get tax revenues from them. So it's very important for us to have our MSMEs grow, and to also encourage young entrepreneurs in the economy to participate.
What we are going to do is remove income tax for MSMEs for the first 3 years. Why are we doing this? The reason MSMEs remain informal is because they don't want to pay tax. But remaining informal limits their growth because they can only get money from friends and families and a partner draw. So by removing the income tax for the first 3 years, they can formalize, they can grow, they can access bank, equity funding. That is what we are doing to grow the MSME sector.
Time. Thank you. Thank you, Team JLP. Your rebuttal.
PNP talks a good talk, but in reality, that's not the fact. 2015, 8,000 companies were registered with the Company Office. 2024, 23,000 companies, twice that number. The fact is, Jamaicans are more energized to form companies, to come out of the informal sector. DBJ, over that 8-year period, loaned almost $70 billion US, 117 billion of investments, 86,000 applicants. That is why our economy has started to turn around. And I want to say to Peter that he must be careful about innuendos, hearsays, and propaganda. First of all, your FinSac era, I don't know how you're comfortable with it. The Contractor General at the time accused you of sweetheart dealings, you and your partners. You cannot now say that you earned your money in a way that is legitimate and above board.
Time. Amor had a question from social media.
This question is from TikTok. The user who sent in this question is Kamar Jackson. Under the current administration, brain drain has become an increasingly pressing issue, negatively impacting our economy. Considering the various causes of this trend, such as limited employment opportunities, inadequate compensation, and governance concerns, what specific strategies and reforms would your government implement to address the key drivers of this problem and ensure the retention of skilled professionals?
Team JLP.
Thank you very much for that question, Cameron Jackson. That area of brain drain has been an issue for a long time. I saw it. I left university in 2001, and most of my classmates left this country because they didn't feel there was an opportunity. And it's for that reason why we focused a lot of our policies, and if you look in our manifesto, there's a huge section for young people, because we believe in a few things. We believe that every young person, as they've told us, wants to own a home one day. And that's why we have allocated 15% of every NHT house built to our young people who are under 35. We're also increasing employment. 280,000 more young people have been brought into the labor force. We're providing jobs, and we're looking for higher paying ones through the work that we're doing in terms of training our people. 500,000 young people have been trained since 2020 at Heart, and we're going to continue doing that.
In addition to that, let me remind Jamaica that it is this government that has brought unemployment to its lowest level ever. In fact, the participation rate in the job market is 68%, the highest it has ever been. Under their watch, people lost jobs. They borrowed and spent, or taxed and spent. Under this government, no new taxes and jobs have been created. This is a more responsible government, and the future of young people are brighter with the JLP.
Thank you. Team PNP, your 90 seconds to answer the question.
Raising the tax threshold to 3.5 million, the tax-free threshold to 3.5 million, is one of the most fundamental and revolutionary things we can do to retain our best and brightest. As I said, this is a manifesto that we've put forward, not just about a campaign for the next election. This is about the next generation. We want to ensure that our teachers, our nurses, our police officers can provide for their families in the way they should. We want to rebuild the working class and the middle class. We want to ensure that buying a house, buying a car, aspiring to improve, to lift your whole generation is not merely a dream. So yes, what we have proposed is radical. It's transformational. It's going to require a shaking up and a reordering of all the priorities of government. That's not accidental. We're working for a social revolution. People are not going to elect a new government to do the same thing that the outgoing one is elected to do.
When I hear them speak, I wonder which young people they're speaking about. When I speak to young people, they tell me they have no hope of owning a home. With the NHT limit being raised to 9 million, the problem is that the houses cost 40 million. There's no hope.
Time, Mr. Sanders, time. We now take a short break and invite you to stay tuned. Welcome back to the Economy Debate presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. We invite you, the public, to send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok. Send them to Jamaica Debates. We'll now ask Andrea to start this segment with a question for Team PNP.
The PNP has described the 0% in year one as an insult to public sector workers. The party says they have looked at the budget and fiscal policy paper and will do better for the public sector workers if elected. What percentage increase would a PNP administration propose?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say, we are going to treat public sector workers with respect and dignity. I won't talk to the JTA president like the Minister of Education and say him performing at his conference. That is disrespect. Disrespect is when you need to get a meeting, you have to get restive and threaten strike action. The fiscal policy paper has, in its first year, 9%. In the second year, 6%. In the third year, 6%. They have offered 0. That is not an offer. We will do better. But by lifting the income tax threshold to 3.5 million, we are easing the pressure. We easing the pressure on our nurses. We easing the pressure on our policemen. We easing the pressure so that more money will be in their pockets. They have a history of dealing with civil servants with disrespect. You right now have 2 sets of civil servants in the same office doing the same thing and earning different salaries. A whole set of anomalies that arose from the public sector compensation review. They haven't addressed it. There's supposed to be a meeting tomorrow with the JCTU and you cancel it. They are the ones who treat them with disrespect. We have a history of working with our public sector in the interest of this country, and we will continue to do so. So when we come into office, it will be better than 0% because there is money in the budget to provide better for public servants.
Team JLP, your rebuttal?
This is a government that has given the public sector the largest wage increase in the history of Jamaica. What did the public sector know under the PNP? Wage freeze after wage freeze after wage freeze. We are committed to continue negotiating with our unions. Negotiation is a process. We still remain at the table. Our Prime Minister has indicated that we will get to a point that is satisfactory for the public sector workers and for Jamaica as a whole. We remain committed to the public sector workers.
Time, Mrs. Williams, time. Thank you. Al, your question to Team JLP.
In fiscal year 2013-14, the then Minister of Finance, Peter Phillips, balanced the budget. Minister Phillips met the targets for the primary surplus and the budget deficit. The JLP said at the time, including you, Minister Williams, that the then PNP government was preoccupied with passing the IMF test and not the people's test. Can it be said of this JLP administration that it is preoccupied with reducing the debt instead of growing the economy and passing the people's test?
We are passing the people's tests. If you look at what we have done, what we have achieved, all that we have achieved, we have done it for the people of Jamaica. Look at roads, look at new jobs created, look at the level of inflation, look at the number of houses that are being built. We are going gangbusters. Every day we wake up, it is to grow the economy. During our administration, we have grown the economy. We have had 33 quarters of growth, interrupted only by COVID and by Hurricane Beryl. We wake up every day to ensure that this economy expands so that there are opportunities for our men and women in the society.
When we speak of the people's test, all these nice economic jargon about GDP and debt to GDP ratio and all of that don't mean anything to the ordinary person, to most of our Jamaicans. What they think about is how is everything that we're doing affecting the quality of their life. We're giving more water. 350,000 more people have water, 280,000 more jobs created. We are improving the quality of life of our people.
Team PNP, your rebuttal.
What I want to ask every Jamaican, is your life better? Can you afford the same things you used to be able to afford? Do you have to choose between paying your utilities, buying food, or buying medication? Is your life better?
The lived reality, notwithstanding the macroeconomic numbers of most Jamaicans, is a struggle to put food on the table. When you go to the supermarket or the corner shop, you pick up things and you have to put it back down. If you suffer the misfortune of going to a hospital, you have to sit down on one chair for 2 or 3 days. And what we have seen at Cornwall Regional, it moved from 1.5 billion to 25 billion. That is the waste that we will eliminate so we can put money back in the hands of the Jamaican
Thank you very
people.
much. Time. Al would like to use this second and final follow-up question. Al.
According to the World Bank, the Jamaican economy average annual growth over the last decade is around 0.8%. Why is this? And what will you do to get it to around 5%?
Thanks for that question. Thanks for that question on growth. There have been many impediments to growth, and we have seen that documented in many places. If we look at the impediments, they include training, and we're doing that, 500,000 trained. Another impediment to growth is the high electricity cost, and we have taken the decision to not continue on that bad JPS contract because we know we need to have lower electricity costs. In addition to that, infrastructure is another impediment to growth, and that's why we've spent so much money on fixing our roads, providing internet access across this country, and improving our investments in technology. We understand that in order to bring the growth rate up, we are going to have to do these things.
You have 45 seconds.
What they haven't spoken about is how corruption has impacted that growth. how our foreign direct investment has moved from 900 million in 2015 to 300 million today. That 11 of them are under investigation for illicit enrichment. I, Julian J. Robinson, can categorically state, I am not under investigation. Can the three of you say that? We need growth. We understand the assignment now. We have consolidated our economy. We have to improve the outcomes in education, which have been poor. You talk about energy. It took you 8 years to put out a request for a proposal for renewables. Why? Because of the corruption at the Ministry of Education, where you see 4 ministers over 8 years.
Time. Thank you. Social media, Amoy.
All right, so we're on TikTok, and I'm seeing a question here from Joe. Policies often target low-income earners, while high-income earners are generally believed to be able to manage on their own. What in your plans directly supports middle-income Jamaicans who are caught in the squeeze?
Team PNP.
So the contrast between the JLP's approach of reducing the income tax rate for everyone versus the PNP's approach of lifting the threshold is a prime example of that. The cabinet ministers and the prime ministers will benefit the most from the reduction in the rate of income tax. Police officers, nurses, doctors, security guards, public servants, those who are at the rank and file of the police level, everyone who earns under 3.5 million will be the major beneficiaries of our program. That is what differentiates our approach from theirs. They talk about prosperity. It's prosperity for them and their cronies. When we talk about putting people at the center of our policies and programs, it's because we want to lift everyone. We want to lift those at the bottom. We want to build out the middle class. We want education to become a bridge from one generation to another to move them to another level in society.
And we will continue to lift the standards of the majority of the Jamaican people. The income tax threshold, we're going to remove tax on overtime so that our security guards, our nurses will get a break and you put more money in their pockets.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Team JLP.
The PNP does not understand how the economy works. First of all, they talk about our performance. Our performance we're very proud of. We created the lowest poverty rate in the country on record. We created more jobs with more participation in the economy on record. And while we're doing that, we are building out new industries in digital technology, in our port facilities, for logistics hub, as well as maintaining and building on the traditional industries that are there. Most persons in Jamaica today, young persons who have a skill, can find a job. That was not the case under the People's National Party. And I want to just come back to this issue of corruption, because they seem to think that they can speak about things in mid-air without any evidence, innuendos and suppositions, as if people are going to accept that. What the Jamaican people want is who is going to look after them, who will bring down crime. Peter Bunting depended on divine intervention without work. In fact, he is on record, I believe, as the only Minister of National Security who was unable to secure himself. And I am happy he's okay from that unfortunate incident in Portland. But it speaks to confidence in their policy to reduce crime. This government has reduced crime by the lowest over 30 years. And this is what Jamaicans want. They felt unsafe under the PNP. They feel a lot safer under the Jamaican Labour Party.
Mr. Tufton, thank you. Time. We now take a short break and invite you to stay tuned. Welcome back to the economy debate presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. We invite you, the public, to send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Send them to Jamaica Debates. We now ask Andrea to start the final segment, with a question for Team JLP.
The central bank has cut its policy interest rate from 7% in July 2024 to 5.75% in August 2025. The regulator has been pleading with the banks, the commercial banks, to further reduce lending rates, but it's not happening fast enough. What will your administration do to further pressure banks to cut their lending rates?
Okay. So we are seeing interest rates come down, and we're getting early signs that the rates to borrowers is also coming down. Just recently, I was speaking to the DBJ. You know that the DBJ on-lends to the banks to lend to our MSMEs, and DBJ reported that they are seeing lower rates in the marketplace from banks. As the Bank of Jamaica bring rates down, which it will, we fully expect that our borrowers are going to begin to see lower rates in the marketplace on the various loans.
I think that the reforms that are taking place within the banking sector, the independent central bank, which has to drive this issue, that's why we supported the independence of the central bank, and competition. What we have been working on, but I do agree we need to work on it more, and this is for the next administration, is to make it easier for someone to move their account from one bank to the next. We believe ultimately in the market, within reason of course, with a regulatory framework, not like them who allowed an attempt at liberalization that drove us into FinSAC.
Thank you. Team PNP, your rebuttal.
Before the break, Chris had the gall of claiming success with crime. The fact is that more Jamaicans have been murdered under this JLP administration, almost 13,000 murdered in their 2 terms than in any other 2 terms in the history of Jamaica. That is failure, not success. We commend the police for the job they've been doing this year in reducing it, but you can't take credit for that. That's despite your failed SOE policies.
What we will do to ensure that the banking sector is more competitive, we are going to ensure government deposits. There's a system to ensure that all banks participate in government deposits.
Thank you. Al, I invite you to pose a question to Team PNP.
The former CEO of Grace Kennedy, the late Don Webby, consistently called on Jamaica to reduce its food importation bill by half by 2030. Given that Jamaica spends around $1 billion a year on imported food, and according to the FAO, Jamaica's food imports account for approximately 21% of its total merchandise imports, what will your government be doing to reduce the food importation in a meaningful way?
Under the JLP administration, the imported food cost has doubled. It was $800 million US 10 years ago. It is now $1.6 billion. That 800 million US dollars, or about 150 billion Jamaican dollars, should be going into the pockets of the farmers of South Manchester, South St. Elizabeth, and farmers all over Jamaica. We have committed to forming an agricultural development fund. This is going to ensure that we inject new technology, new machinery into our farming communities. It's going to ensure that we put adequate post-harvest storage and processing facilities in place to reduce the 30% or more that's lost. We are going to ensure that funding is available for our farmers.
And we commit to the Jamaican people and to the farmers of Jamaica to reduce importation by 25% in our first term. We also commit to helping farmers access financing at more affordable rates and terms. We also commit to helping them with products such as insurance to ensure that when natural disasters hit, the impact to them for recovery is not as high.
Team JLP, your report.
First of all, there is a need to do more to develop our local industry for self-sufficiency, but also for export. The fact is this government has done a lot. In fact, if you look at the last 8 years on domestic export has gone up by some 31%. What it means is that more local companies within a much friendlier environment are in fact producing and exporting. But it is a fact that we are importing more at the same time. That is simple. We have an economy that affords the capacity to demand more. We have a thriving tourism industry, and we have a consumer is earning more. This will contribute to a greater demand. It's a process, but it's also a sign of success by this government.
Thank you. Andrea, I invite you to pose a question to Team JLP.
Major platforms such as Meta, Google, and TikTok are earning money and data from the Jamaican economy, but they are not paying taxes in Jamaica. What policy changes will your administration pursue to ensure that Jamaica directly collects taxes from these platforms?
So we recognize that those companies that you mentioned are not paying tax to the Jamaican government. We have our tax entities in conversation with these entities to ensure that the Jamaican people get their fair share of taxes from these companies. We sit on some of the international bodies that look at taxes across different countries to ensure that there's fairness in what's being done. And I know that we will pursue it vigorously to ensure that Jamaica is not left out as these companies thrive on our data.
What's important to also note is that a lot of our young people are using these platforms. I know recently I saw someone on TikTok selling some nice products that I thought about buying. So our young people are using these platforms very well, and they're creating content that is absolutely amazing. And so we have the tax side that the minister has said that we're looking at in a more multilateral kind of approach, as we tend to do as Jamaicans. But also, there are also other concerns too in relation to artificial intelligence. They're using a lot of our creative energy. They're using our music. They're using our cultural ideas. And those are going into AI programs. And that's something we have to look at.
Thank you. Rebuttal, Team PNP.
It's clear that there's no policy to deal with this. This is where we have to work with our CARICOM states to develop a common policy. Why? Because these are large multinationals. Their GDP would dwarf the entire Caribbean region. And so it requires some consensus among the region to ensure that you implement a policy which every country agrees to and that you can stand the test of time. We recognize the importance of our creatives. That's why we are establishing a $1 billion fund, not like the film fund that has disbursed zero, but a $1 billion fund for creatives, for artists or singers or potters, the people who create content so they can build their businesses.
Thank you. Social media, Amoy.
On social media platform X, Sean from Kingston says, free healthcare means little if hospitals don't have CT machines, x-rays, or even basic supplies. What short-term financial measures will you take within the first 2 years, if you win, to fix these shortages and ensure patients can actually access proper care?
Team PNP, you go first.
You know, I really wanted the Minister of Health to focus on these issues, but him seem more preoccupied with dealing with FinSAC and other people's business. Because if he spent more time dealing with Cornwall Regional, we wouldn't have a $25 billion overrun. If he spent more time dealing with the hospital sector, when people go there, they wouldn't have to sit on a wooden chair for 3 days. And when they have to do an MRI or CT scan, they have to pay $50,000 for go. And the same ambulance for take them have to pay for it too. And them can't get toilet paper in the hospital. Our health sector is failing despite the amount of money we have spent. It is the inefficiency of the Jamaica Labour Party why we are here. We are going to ensure the dignity of Jamaicans who have to traverse our public health system. They have been failed by this administration. And that is why we are committed to ensuring that monies which come into the coffers go for the benefit. So when we look on the drill and we drill down, it shouldn't cost $31 million for a $3 million drill. Because what does that do? When you go to the hospital, you have to pay now based on that wastage, that corruption, and that inefficiency. What can go so, Jamaica? How can you feel comfortable?
There are currently no CT scan or MRI services available at Mandeville Regional Hospital because the private providers have not been paid.
Team JLP.
Well, let me just start by saying I wasn't the one in 2015 who said we had to use garbage bags as aprons or cut a soap in two. That is their spokesperson of health who spoke about the crisis in the system. So we have come a long way, and we started from a very low base. It is incorrect to say we don't have CT scan, just to say to your social media person. We have CT scans, we have MRIs. In fact, we have more digital machines in our health system than any time before. We need more, but we have done better than the PNP up to 2015 when they were there. Oh, I have more time. Let me also say, because I have a lot to say, that we have embarked on the largest expansion of hospital build-out than any other government since independence, the largest upgrading of health centers than any other government since independence. We have hired we have put in our establishment over 3,000 doctors and nurses, double the numbers of community health aides, and last year we served up 3 million prescriptions to Jamaicans on the National Health Fund. In their 2015 year, they did less than 1 million. The facts are that more Jamaicans are being served by our health system. Do we need to do more? I am the first to say yes, which is why we need the next term to complete the work that we are doing. They talk about the issue, they did nothing. As far as corruption is concerned, that's innuendos and talk, no proof of that, and I condemn them for that kind of position.
Time. Thank you. All right, we're at that segment at that point in the debate where we allow the teams to ask a question of the other, yeah? So we're going to start with Team JLP posing a question to Team PNP.
Thank you. It is our considered view that the 3.5 million threshold increase that was recently announced is nothing but a Samfi political scam. In the beginning it was 2.1, then it became 3, then it disappeared, and then it appeared 1 week before an election. You have to tell the people of Jamaica, I ask you to tell the people of Jamaica, is this just an election scam, or is it that you are going to be cutting much needed services such as NHF, where we spend $19 billion for drugs in hospitals, or university spending, which is $17 billion. Tell us how you plan to really cut discretionary areas, as you have called them.
I answered the question already, but I'm going to answer it again for the Jamaican people. I have said we are going to raise the threshold to $3.5 million. How are we going to do that? We're going to do that because your budget says that $140 billion of additional government revenues will be earned over 3 years. But that is at your 1% growth, which you have no ambition on. We're going to grow the economy by more than that so that we can pay for these things. There's also a benefit when you put more money in the hands of people because they're going to spend it, which will allow the government to collect more on GCT and other indirect taxes. We are the party committed to ensuring that all Jamaicans thrive and not just a few. Our plan is better. It is more equitable. Their plan will benefit the richer people more. Ours will benefit the working people, our nurses, our policemen, the security guards, the civil servants, to put more money to ease the pressure of the cost of living that they have to face. That is our commitment as a party of social justice and equality. So when you talk about Samfire, what Samfire you're talking about? Madness you're talking about? We will deliver on behalf of the Jamaican people. We have a history of protecting our most vulnerable and ensuring that they have more money to spend so that they can protect their families and those around them.
Time. JLP, you have a 45-second rebuttal.
Jamaicans, the 3.5 million threshold is the largest political scam. They cannot tell you how they're going to fund it. They look at the current budget, they see the projections growing to 140 billion, but they don't tell you that expenses are also growing. So that's not available for you to use towards the 3.5. And you also put out an ad showing how much people are going to get on a monthly basis. You know that's a lie. They may get it for 1 month, but it's not going to be there. The 3.5 that you're
thank
talking
you,
about
time. Thank
cannot
you,
be
Mrs.
done.
Williams. Thank you. Time. Team PNP, your turn to pose a question to Team JLP.
How can you be trusted to keep promises when you've broken promises on impeachment legislation, unexplained wealth orders, term limits, grand referenda? You've attacked the Integrity Commission relentlessly. You've undermined them. You have even failed to sign the Code of Conduct, basic principles dealing with integrity, honesty, selflessness, and accountability. How can anybody take your word? How do they know that those candidates who are under investigation for illicit enrichment are not offering themselves out there right now to the public, secretly knowing that they are corrupt? The clock isn't working, by the way.
Oh, the clock isn't. Okay, I'm just going to still go ahead and answer that question. It's a very curious question because I know in the 90s when I became politically aware, I remember politics and scandals. I remember hearing light bulb scandal, fat cat scandal, and then the mother of all scandals, FinSac. When you look in your dictionary and you look for scandal, you see the PNP right there. In terms of the Integrity Commission, it is this administration that implemented it. It is this administration that puts $2 billion annually to it. It is this administration in our manifesto that says we're going to strengthen our corruption prevention mechanisms in this country. It is this administration that has delivered Jamaica's best anti-corruption score. And it's not us that said it. It is an international body, Transparency International. We have been the ones that have been taking Jamaica on the path of anti-corruption, not the PNP.
In addition to that, let me just say very clearly that the Jamaican people are concerned about their lives, their livelihood, their communities, and by extension, Jamaica. They talk, we deliver. We have delivered the lowest unemployment, the lowest poverty, reduced crime despite Peter's objection by over 40%, the lowest in 30 years. That is what is important to the people of Jamaica.
Thank you, Mr. Tupton. Time, thank you. Team PNP, you have a 45-second rebuttal.
It's interesting that they say that people are concerned about their standard of living because they're talking about things that happened in the 90s. That's over 30 years ago. Young people who are listening, does that affect your life now? Yet still, they're not speaking about the scandals that young people, anybody 25 years and younger, would have experienced what happened with rural reading education, to the point that education is behind. We are celebrating as a country five subjects being attained by 19% of our children. That's 1 in every 5. Is your child one of the 5 that is attained in 5 subjects? And if your child is not, what is happening to them? Our standards are too low. What happened to the used car scandal? What happened to Petrojam scandal? And I'm sure there are many others. Come on, man. 30 years ago,
Time. Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Thank you. Time. Okay. What we're going to do now is this. We're going to invite Team PNP to deliver a closing statement of 2 minutes in length.
Jamaica, the current macroeconomic figures look good, but what is your lived reality? What do you go through every single day? The reality you face is that you are living hand to mouth. You are working, but you can only afford to go to work and come back based on the wages that you earn. You are working poor. 55% of Jamaicans are considered food insecure, which means they cannot afford to eat a proper meal per day. If they go to the hospitals that Chris supposed to bill, them can't find toilet paper or a bed. Jamaica, you deserve better. Time come for a better life. The next People's National Party administration will lift the tax threshold to 3.5 million, so we can put more money in the pockets of working Jamaicans. We are going to eliminate the tax on overtime so that, again, people can get a break the same people who are working hard to build our economy. We are going to run a more efficient economy so that this thing called the Office of Plenty Ministries, that is a bottleneck where nothing can go through and it takes you a year to do something. We are going to eliminate those efficiencies so that we can grow the economy beyond 1%. We are going to ensure that anybody who is the first in their family gets a scholarship, and that means for persons who are currently at university, we are going to ensure that those who are buying a house get the $500,000 deposit. And I want to assure persons who earn over $3.5 million that this tax benefit is for you too. So what are we going to do? We're going to build a Jamaica in which all Jamaicans can feel a part of. So come September 3rd, when you go to the polling station, I want you to think carefully. I want you to use your head and put the X beside the head.
Time. Thank you. Thank you. May I add that the order of the closing statement was predetermined by a coin toss. Team JLP, your 2 minutes.
My fellow Jamaicans, in 2016, you asked the Jamaica Labour Party, you gave them your vote of confidence to correct the ills within our economy caused by the People's National Party. They served 24 of 27 years and created more debt, more unemployment, more poverty than any other administration. Fast forward to today, 2025, we have the lowest poverty rate, we have the lowest unemployment rate, we have a macroeconomic stable society, we have more companies registering to start their business, we have crime that has been the monster of your business, your personal life, down the lowest in 30 years, all by the policies of this government. We still have some ways to go. Our hospital and health centers have embarked on the largest expansion and build out. They left it as a disaster. We have had to correct it. We ask you, on September 3rd, give the Jamaica Labour Party the opportunity to continue the work. We have done more for you than any other administration, and certainly more than the PNP has ever done. They are now coming with a one-week plan, essentially, to get your vote by claiming 3.5 when they rejected our 1.5 when we started. They don't know how to get us there. We will get you there. We are about protecting yourselves, your families, your communities by doing what is necessary. That is all that matters. Their diversion around innuendos, rumors, targeting persons, and character assassination does not impact you in your community. It is about the water, the road, the health services, and this government has done more. On the 3rd of September, put your X beside the bell, vote for the Jamaica Labour Party.
Thank you, thank you. In the good spirit of the debates, we invite Team JLP and Team PNP to meet in the middle and shake hands. You can applaud. All right. That concludes that concludes the economy debate between Dana Morris Dixon, Favour Williams, and Christopher Tufton for Team Jamaica Labour Party, and Julian Robinson, Keisha Anderson, and Peter Bunting for Team PNP. Join us again Thursday, August 28, 9 p.m. sharp for the final debate in the 2025 General Election Debate Series, the Leaders Debate, featuring party leaders Dr. Andrew Holness from the JLP and Mark Golding from the PNP.